represent anyone, just having a little humor.
Okay, and it's 1 o'clock, so I'm going to start the recording. So we are now live, and I'm going to let in the press here in just a moment, and we'll get started. I'm going to send this to Michael. Harry, do you want to post that to Michael as well? Never mind, I can do it. I know how to do it. Hang on, I can do
Okay.
this.
Oh, Michael's going to be introducing me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Michael, I just sent you Harry's bio, which I think you got already anyway, but
Well, I updated it.
he updated it.
So, okay.
Turn that light off.
So.
So I think I actually want to do with the three of you guys is to say what you're running for in your name and let you talk a little bit about your background yourself, because in a couple of these bios were so long that I didn't know what to chop out or not, and kind of want to trust you to.
Oh, my start off is an introduction and everything myself to reinforce and
Great.
repeat.
So that's what I'm
the-
going to do. I'm going to name you and
I
introduce
thought that like 3 sentences there was like pretty.
right, but where am I getting it?
I just messaged you, Mike, in the chat.
In the chat, in the Facebook chat, or the
No,
Zoom
no, I'm sorry, in the
Zoom chat.
Zoom chat.
chat?
You want it on Facebook too?
Okay. No, this is good. This is
Okay.
fine.
This is terrible. There we go. No glasses.
Oh, Madeline,
Good.
dressing it up. Okay.
Okay.
Mike, I just sent it to you in the Zoom chat privately.
Got it. Yep, got it.
Great. Well, why don't we get started then? It's 2 minutes after 1 o'clock, so we'll get started. This is.
Okay, I don't have any bad shadows or anything, right? I'm still good? Yeah.
You're
You're good.
looking good. Yep. So to get started. Good afternoon or good morning for those of you who are still on morning time. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our premier inaugural series of virtual press conferences. This for the Green Party of the United States 2020 Presidential Nominating Convention. This has been an experiment for us and gets better every time we go through this routine. So hopefully viewers are noticing that we're improving our situation, we're improving our work, and hope you enjoy the series of press conferences featuring office holders and Green candidates running for office. Before this gets started, I do want to go over a few points. Press is muted, as you know. You can also rename yourself with your full name and media outlet. And we'll get started. The moderator will introduce each person, may ask them a question, and then they'll give a brief speech. And then if you want to ask a question in the media, once that's open for question and answer, use the raise hand function or type a question into the chat area. If it doesn't work, just wave your hand and we'll hopefully see it. Again, if anyone runs into a problem with bandwidth, poor connection, you might be dropped either by us or the application. Wanting to remind any viewers, anyone wanting more information about the Green Party, the convention, and where you can watch it and other public events. If you're in the press, it's in your press packet and schedule. The press and everyone else can go to gp.org/live, and we are broadcasting these on Facebook and they'll be on YouTube. gp.org-live also features, gp.org/live also features live English captioning and simultaneous ASL interpretation. So I'll now turn this over to our moderator, Michael Feinstein. Actually, I'll introduce him first. He's a co-founder of the Green Party of California and a former co-chair of the Green Party of the United States and former Green mayor and city council member of Santa Monica, California. He has tracked and maintained a list of Greens running for public office and holding public office across the United States since 1994. He's co-administrator of the elections database, gpelections.org, and an advisor to the GP Coordinated Campaign Committee. He'll be presenting, or he has presented, a workshop on the Green Elections database and how you can use it for research, keeping track of Green candidates and office holders. And that's a very valuable service. Again, gpelections.org for anyone wanting all the details about every Green candidate and office holder we have ever been able to track. Michael, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Michael, for hosting again.
Great. Thanks, Holly, and thanks for organizing this. Welcome to everybody to our Green Party press conference. And on this press conference, we're featuring 3 Greens who run for federal office. Around the world, there are Green parties in about 100 countries, and there are Greens elected to federal office, over 300, in about 25 to 30 countries around the world. And they're elected in other countries because there they have systems of proportional representation, where if a party gets a certain percentage of the vote, they win that percentage of the seats. In the United States, Green candidates for state and federal office often win percentages that would elect Greens in other countries, but under our US winner-take-all single-seat district system, those Greens aren't elected. But it doesn't mean that they don't have great things to say. And we're here today to hear from 3 of them, 2 for US Senate and 1 for the United States House of Representatives. For US Senate, we have Ibrahim Tayer from Oregon. We have Madeline Hoffman from New Jersey and Harry Berger running for a US House in New York. We're going to start with Ibrahim. Welcome. And why are you running for US Senate in Oregon?
Well, thank you for having me and thank you for organizing this. I'm running for the US Senate in Oregon because I have 3 major issues. Those issues, unfortunately, is not being presented by most of the parties that are active in the political scene in the country. Number 1 is our foreign policy, which is tied to a lot of issues, including economy and environment. Right now, we have about 800 military bases around the world. Our military budget exceeds 1 trillion every year. 56% of our tax dollars goes to the directly to the Pentagon. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of economy. And away from the economy, the legality of what we're doing, the foreign policy, the actions that we're taking are condemned by international law. And most of the time, it violates the Declaration of the Human Rights. And unfortunately, as I said, it is absent from the political scene. As we see, the federal government is dominated by 2 major parties, Democrats and Republicans, and both of them are supportive of our imperialism. That's a huge issue. It involves a lot, and it is absent. So this is 1. 2, our economy is getting now globalized, centralized. And the meaning of having a centralized economy is few people can control the lives of millions of peoples. In this case, we have only 100 people, wealthy people here in the country who have wealth equivalent to 50% of the whole world. That's a huge power, and it is concentrated in the hands of few. This is why we have a lot of problems when we talk about the money in politics. We're talking about people who have influence, and they have influence because of their money. And this is because of policies that they were taken that centralized that money. And now we could see in the latest stimulus bill, there's like the biggest theft for the people's money and tax dollars money. Now 41% of small businesses, local businesses, are gone because of policies that were taken. So it means more concentration of power and wealth. This is a huge issue. If we were talking about income inequality before this crisis, now we should really be worried about it. And it is absent, if you can notice, from the federal discussion. It is absent, this concentration of power. And I think most of you know the new NAFTA, the USMCA, was signed just last March, while the people were distracted by the impeachment trials. They signed it and passed it and ratified it into law. And the new NAFTA, how many jobs and how many concentration of wealth happened from before. So this is a huge issue.
Madeline Hoffman, you're running for US Senate in New Jersey. You've been a peace activist. I met you in the late 90s when you were a pioneer getting the Green Party off the ground, running for governor in New Jersey. Are you hearing a lot of similar issues in what Ibrahim said?
Yes, I am, Mike, and thanks to everyone for being here and for holding this press conference. I could probably have given the same speech as Ibra just gave because of those issues. Many of these issues have been even further highlighted by the pandemic we just lived through, or we're still living through and dealing with. I'm actually running against Senator Cory Booker, the Democrat, the incumbent Democrat, who ran for president for a time and then gave up on those ambitions and came back to run for US Senate in New Jersey. And I take issue with Senator Booker on a number of these very same matters that Ibra was talking about. First of all, single payer healthcare and the need to expand and improve Medicare for everyone. Senator Cory Booker said that he stands behind Joe Biden in tweaking the Affordable Care Act. And any of us who have benefited from the Affordable Care Act know that it's extremely expensive and you get very little in return. And it's time instead to scrap that. It was time before the Affordable Care Act to have a true healthcare for all. And this is what one of the things I am working for and fighting for in New Jersey. And Senator Cory Booker does not agree. We get the money to implement such a healthcare system through cutting the military budget. Cutting the military budget by at least 50%. And any Green New Deal, to be a real Green New Deal and an effective one, has to confront the military industrial complex. And Senator Cory Booker does not do that. He does not confront the military industrial complex. In fact, he just proposed an amendment that would mandate, to a previous piece of legislation, that would mandate that the United States gives Israel $3.8 billion annually for the next 10 years. And that's a ceiling. That's a floor, not a ceiling. So should somebody propose that it be more, then more can be spent. And he said flat out when he was running for president that if anyone is concerned about the occupation, the Israeli occupation of Palestine, then he's not their candidate and they should look for another candidate. And I would like to believe that I am that candidate. I'm concerned about the US military operations throughout the world and specifically with Cory Booker in both Israel and Iran. Cory Booker, we had to push him like crazy to sign the Iran deal. And now that it's no longer in place, Senator Booker says he's not in favor, he's probably not in favor of such a deal. So if we take the money out of the military budget, at least 50%, we can implement single payer healthcare. And then we can also implement measures to address climate change, which we can't do unless we cut the military budget and cut the endless wars, join the global call for a ceasefire, especially during this pandemic, and institute a workers and students Bill of Rights so that workers don't have to worry. They can have unlimited sick pay during this pandemic and later. Rents and mortgages are canceled. Student debt is not put on hold, but forgiven. College tuition is free. There's a whole range of options that can be included in this workers and student Bill of Rights. Last thing on education, if you look at, Senator Cory Booker was mayor of the city of Newark from 2006 to 2013. And people in Newark are mad and are angry at him because he dismantled the public education system, moved it to private charter schools. The issue of lead contaminated water cropped up during his watch. Police brutality was an issue during his watch. And so I believe that I can better represent not only people in Newark, but throughout the state, defund the police, defund the military, implement true single payer healthcare for all, and a workers and students Bill of Rights.
Well, Madeline, I was originally going to say to you, isn't Cory Booker one of the good guys, and how dare you run against him? So you gave us a lot of arguments why.
Yeah.
Harry Berger is our next candidate. He's running for Congress. in New York's 2nd District on Long Island to replace Peter King, who's not seeking re-election. And Harry wants to get big money out of politics, implement universal health care, and like our previous speakers, defund our military. Harry, is there a lot of similarity between what we've been hearing here about shifting resources from the military overseas and the defund the police and shift money into social services in the country? Is there a parallel between those two?
Oh, definitely. I think it is literally about the difference between life and death. I want to first thank you for hosting this conference and for inviting me here. I'm Harry R. Berger, and I'm running for Congress on Long Island. I believe the people deserve a representative in government who will truly represent their interests, and the only way that's possible is when the candidates accept $0 from corporate sources. I make it clear at every opportunity that mine is a 100% people-powered campaign. Neither of my opponents make that commitment anywhere that I can find easily. The people deserve truly universal health care. Out of over 50 nations considered highly developed by the United Nations, we're the only one that lets people become billionaires by medical extortion. It's literally your money or your life. Who benefits from that system? It's not you and it's not me. It's big insurance, big pharma, and other businesses who want you to be dependent on them to afford good health insurance. They get rich, then they use bribery with extra steps to make it technically not illegal to put lots of money into campaigns for either incumbent politicians who support the status quo or challengers to those incumbents who would threaten their fortunes. Military manufacturers do the same thing until we're spending more than twice as much on war as the next 10 nations combined. Back in college, I was in the Army ROTC program for 2 years until I decided that I don't want the story of my life to be about death, and I left. At the same time, I also said no to designing machines that just kill people. Now, for a mechanical engineer on Long Island, that meant passing up most of my job opportunities, including the ones that paid the most. I want to use one problem to solve the other. Big cuts to the war budget, I say at least 50%. If we cut the military budget by 50%, we're still spending more than the next 10 countries together. That's more than enough. And we can use that money, transfer that budget over into having universal health care. And one very important thing is I want to make sure that Congress is on the level with someone having not even a penny to their name. That's how we make sure that it's good health care for everybody. So vote Berger for Congress in November. We'll have a government that kills fewer people with a healthy population. My website is bergerforcongress.com.
Ibrahim, I didn't ask you. Thank you for that, Harry. Ibrahim, I didn't ask you before. Who are you running against?
I'm going to have to unmute you, Ibrahim. I'm going to put you back on in a moment. Please unmute yourself.
Well, I'm running against Jeff Merkley, which is viewed like one of the most progressive people in the country, mostly because the media doesn't talk about his records, although they are public records. Everyone can access them, but nobody's talking about them. So there's no awareness about his records, including his records on foreign policy, which is very bad. He supported every war Obama waged, including Yemen, and he stood against it in 2016. And most of the people don't know that. Anyhow, so that's Jeff Merkley.
Well, let me just ask you a bit about following up on foreign policy. You were talking before about the US is violating international law, and we've got a president that says America first, and we don't need to listen to these other countries to telling us what to do. Why is closing a lot of the international bases the United States has and bringing some of that money home, is that America first to you? How is that different? Why should we listen to international law?
I get from your question there's something special about this president. There's not. It's all of our presidents since Reagan. Our foreign policy, it was bad since Reagan. So it's not really confined to this president. We know Obama took us from 2 wars to 8 illegal wars. So we shouldn't talk about our president, this president. Actually, he tried to close the Germany military base, but Democrats opposed it. He tried twice to get out of Syria. Democrats opposed it. We don't know about his intention, but he declared it, and the opposition came from Democrats. So let's get out of this context of Democrats are better than Republicans with foreign policy. They're the same. So anyhow, America first should be ethical first. This is one, abiding to the international law. And there's like a clause, there's an article in our constitution that nobody's talking about it. So it is our constitution, Article 6 in our constitution demands the Congress to abide by every treaty we have signed on. So one of the biggest treaties that we actually co-authored is the UN Charter, which obligates every country to respect the sovereignty of other countries. And sometimes they call even a threatening country as a violation for the international law. So if we want to really live up to our constitution, if we want to protect our constitution and put it first, let's protect Article 6 of the Constitution. This article meant to maintain the peace in the world. So it's not about just a law. It's about maintaining peace, about protecting human rights. So yes, part of making America first, having America first, and above anything else is protecting our constitution. And you cannot claim that without really protecting all of the constitution. You don't cherry pick from it.
Well, so speaking about the Constitution, both of you, Madeline and Ibrahim, hopefully heading to the US Senate, it's not in the Constitution, but it's in the Senate rules, the filibuster. And there's a lot of talk about the nuclear option of completely getting rid of the filibuster in the US Senate. There's also the issue that the US Senate massively overrepresents some people and underrepresents others. Small population states get the same number as large population states. So if you got into the Senate and you're sworn in there in January 2021, and whoever is the majority leader, and I know the Democrats are talking about doing this, not the Republicans, but the majority leader comes forward and says, we want to get rid of the filibuster. Let's start with you, Madeline. What are your opinions? What would you say in that discussion and why?
Well, that's a very important question, and I haven't given it much thought, other than in a political science class when I teach American government.
Well, that's not insignificant.
The filibuster was designed to give a weapon to the minority party in Congress to be able to stop something that was unacceptable or to the majority, but without enough political power. The filibuster was designed to help that. I think a couple of things. One, if the filibuster had to be public, so that people are out there and standing, like in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where they're standing there for days on end and the media are focused on them. The filibuster had a very strong political impact in the past. Currently, though, it's being misused and abused, and just used to block and block and block some more. I'm worried more about the Electoral College and ranked choice voting and making sure that those people who are in the Senate represent the people in their states than I am specifically about the filibuster.
Let me add one more. I actually meant to say both the filibuster and the 60 vote rule. So 60 votes to pass certain legislation. That's really the nuclear option, getting rid of that. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I think that if it's applied fairly and people are using it fairly, it's okay. If not, then what it's doing is it's basically saying that you can't have a simple majority on anything anymore. You have to have 60 people stop the filibuster so that something can can move forward. So, yeah, I don't have a position as a U.S. Senate candidate on that filibuster, but I do have a position on democracy, and I do have a position on what you said earlier, that smaller states have the same representation in the U.S. Senate as larger states, and that what has to happen is that the Electoral College needs to be abolished, ranked choice voting needs to be implemented, so that the people who are in the Senate more fairly represent the constituents in their states.
Great. Ibrahim, 60 vote rule, filibuster, keep it, get rid of it, Supreme Court justices.
Well, there's something I haven't mentioned about myself. I majored in philosophy. I have a master's in logic and philosophy. I tend to look at things in a broader view. And when you talk about just one procedure in the Senate, one procedure in the Congress, we're not talking about the biggest picture. So even if you fix, let's say, if you fix the filibuster, if you fix this voting rule, are you going to fix the whole Congress? The answer is no. So we don't need to discuss a lot of these procedural issues. We need to discuss how do we fix the whole Congress. But yeah, the filibuster is not democratic because one person can stop a whole bill. It can stop it from 500 members in the Congress. So one person has that much power, which is just like playing politics. It's not really something we really need to defend. So this is the filibuster. Anyhow, reconfirming the idea of looking on a broader view, we have an issue with land distribution and people representation, and I don't know how to fix it because it's complicated. I have looked at it, whether the Senate is fairly representing small states versus big states. And when we talk about this representation, we're talking about people's life pertaining to their land. So we're not talking about objectively about land issues, economic issues, like something is not related to people. It is related to people. So how do we fix these problems? We need to have a deeper discussion because we need to protect people's right within themselves and within the place that they live in. So this is my answer.
Thank you. Let's jump over to Harry. Harry, I know you want to talk a little bit about the spoiler question, something that Greens often run into.
Sure. Well, if anybody is worried about me spoiling the election, they shouldn't be telling me not to run. They should call their state senator and assemblyman to implement ranked choice voting. The so-called Democrats have complete control of both houses and the governor's chair in New York State. They could have changed the election law anytime they wanted. And instead of implementing ranked choice voting the way Maine did, they chose to be anti-democratic by trying to crush everything but the big two parties. They snuck a change into the first coronavirus emergency law to make it 6 times harder for parties to maintain ballot access. Now we need 3 times as many votes twice as often. The Green Party is currently fighting a lawsuit to overturn the change.
So you're saying when Governor Cuomo was getting all these popular good kudos for handling the virus well, that maybe, and that he should have been a presidential stand-in for Biden if Biden had dropped out, maybe there's more to the story.
Oh, he's one of the worst in terms of being anti-democratic and just trying to crush other parties. The real reason why this is happening now is he actually tried to pass this rule through without going through both houses and the governor actually signing it. And there was a lawsuit that shot it down the first time because they didn't follow the procedure. And then he snuck it into the coronavirus bill to try to shove it down our throats again. And the reason this is happening is because in the last governor's election, the Working Families Party, instead of cross-endorsing the Democratic nominee, they nominated the woman who challenged Cuomo in the primary, who's more progressive. And so he decided to fix their wagon and destroy all parties besides the big two at the same time, instead of making it so that we could have more candidates in the election and you don't have to worry about spoilers.
Great. So I have two final questions because we're nearing the end of our time. And I want to go through each of you, and you can answer both of them together. First, if you could write the next COVID-19 response bill, what would be your 2 or 3 major points that would be in that bill? And not looking back to what we should have done in March, but where we are today. And then the second question is, if we come out of Saturday tomorrow with a nominee, with a president and vice presidential nominee, how do you see working with that campaign at all in your area? So let's go back to the West and go back to Ibrahim and both of those questions. What kind of bill? What are the main points in a bill you would write for a COVID-19 response?
Well, that's a great question because I don't know if you're aware of what is happening with the economy. If you allow me, if you can give me like just 1 more minute to explain it. Since before the COVID, 78% of the people live from a paycheck to a paycheck. 50% of the people doesn't have $500 in case of emergency. 12% of the people live under the fixed poverty line. And then the COVID thing started with the lockdowns and the shutdowns of the economy and the lack of the earlier assessment of the COVID. What is happening now is we reach a point that 40 million people are without jobs. 41% of small businesses are being destroyed. And when we look at the stimulus bill, we could see there's nothing for the small businesses. 4.5 trillions went a giveaway for big corporations, and for small businesses, it's only 1 month worth of payroll, and it is a loan if they can keep their employees. So 1 month out of 4 months. So this is what they give for small businesses. And I think you've heard like last week about the PPP loans, how the rich people also used it. The thing is, the bonus of the unemployment insurance is going to end this month. The moratoriums and on evictions and foreclosures ended last month. We are heading toward a disaster, but nobody's talking about it because at least 50% of those who are unemployed right now cannot live without that bonus, and we don't have it right now. So first, we need to fix the small businesses economy and extend the bonus until we can revive those small businesses and create more jobs. Second, we need to demand an investigation about what's happened, because I've looked at the statistic coming from different states and for the whole country. There's like an artificial steep in the deaths, and when you analyze it, it's coming because of protocols happened mainly to manage the older population that has died. And knowingly that happened, and within 3 weeks of the time, that means it is a mismanagement. It's not naturally a spread of the disease when you look at the epidemiology models. So this artificial steep of deaths needs to be investigated artificially. I think and Como just like pushed those seniors who were diagnosed into their seniors' homes. It just like go killed your friends. So this is what happened. And with the use of ventilators, 8 out of 10 people would die from ventilators, even if they're not sick, but they did it anyway without any prior studies, even if some warnings came out from Italy. From the beginning, I was like following the whole issue. So they came, they never acted upon them. So we need to investigate what's happened. And with regards to the second question, I don't know what's gonna happen. Most likely.
We'll come back to you after Saturday then. Maybe you can decide based on who we nominate. Madeline, what's in your bill?
All right, well, in my bill, I've done a lot of thinking about this, obviously, because the bulk of my campaign to this point has been conducted during a pandemic and a lockdown. So a lot of things to think about. First of all, I would go back to the single payer healthcare and not so that healthcare and health insurance rather is not tied to your employment, because with all the jobs that have been lost, people have also lost their health insurance. Second, I would advocate for a universal basic income of $2,000 a month. The $1,200 once is simply not enough. The unemployment benefits are simply not enough. So a universal basic income, unlimited sick pay. The people who are working, say, in the meatpacking plants in the Midwest, they wanted those meatpacking plants to be shut down because COVID-19 was rampant, and the president ordered them back. And then the governor of one state said, well, if you don't go back during the pandemic, we'll consider that a mandatory quit. So you lose all your benefits. No worker, unemployment benefits rather, no worker should have to make that kind of choice. Either I'm going to stay home and I won't have benefits, I can't put food on the table, or I'm going to go to work and I'm going to get sick. So unlimited sick pay, personal protective equipment if people need it. Amazon is a case in point. Bezos is making money hand over fist. These large corporation owners should not be profiting from a situation that's bad for their workers and employees. And then lastly, or two last things, elimination of student debt, not forgiveness of the interest for the next, or putting the interest on hold for these months, elimination of student debt, elimination of the rent, cancellation of the rent and mortgages for these last 3 or 4 months. Because how are people going to pay what they owe and keep current once the pandemic is done? And then we need to address the prisoners and the detainees in ICE facilities. We've been fighting very hard here in New Jersey to have the ICE detainees released, because they have to buy a bar of soap, for heaven's sakes, and they live right on top of one another. They can't physically distance. And then we have to deal with our homeless situation, because those folks aren't covered by the CARES Act. They're not covered by anything that Washington does. And as a US Senator, I would make sure that happened.
I'm going to hand this over to Holly, because I actually have to do the elections database workshop right now. Thanks to all of you. I'm going to sign out and look forward to seeing you all in Washington in January.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. So we actually are way over time on this, but I want to say, I think Ibra and Madeline answered the last question. Harry Berger, did you answer this question yet?
Nope.
No, okay. And Haryashka asked if you would be all going to your campaigning as a slate with the president. I'm going to assume that that's a yes, or however that works. So
Well, very much so. In my case, especially, like I mentioned previously on the spoiler question, in the case of New York State, unless whoever the Green Party nominates for president gets 150,000 votes this election, we lose our ballot access, and all the people registered with the Green Party in New York State are made to, no party preference or something like that. And we lose that whole thing, even if we manage to get the ballot access back 2 years later with the governor's race. It's a real mess there. So whoever the Democratic nominee is, I'm definitely going to be telling people to vote for that person so that we can keep our ballot access. It's very important. I needed 34 signatures originally, and it got knocked down to 11 with the COVID emergency. But that was only for Green Party members who are registered in New York State and in my district could sign those. If we had to run as independent, I would need a lot more signatures. I forget exactly what the number is off the top of my head, but then they would also need to be notarized. It's a really big hill to climb to get on the ballot if you don't have ballot access in New York State. They make it very difficult for us. And in regards to the COVID-19 emergency, the way our government has been going about this has been all wrong from the beginning. They've been doing the trickle down effect, where they give money to the businesses and count on that to trickle it down to the people. We need to do it the other way around. We need to give money to the people, and they will spend it because we need it. These are people who don't, many of them have nothing. They had no savings, and now they've had no job for a couple of months. you know, they've got plenty of bills they're itching to pay, but they don't have the money for it. So if we did something like what Canada does, where they said $2,000 to everybody once a month for as long as this crisis lasts, that would be a big help towards people being able to afford to make their rent payments and things like that. We also need to basically forgive the payments for the rent and mortgage that people haven't been able to make, because if you've been out of work for a couple of months, you've been depleting your saving. What savings you did have are now depleted down to nothing. And suddenly, okay, the virus is over, back to normal again, and you get hit with 4 or 5 months of back rent. How is anybody supposed to pay for that? I have no idea. It's just not possible as near as I can see. So we need to have a solution for that. And basically it's going to have to be that the people at the bottom get bailed out, and the people at the top who have all the wealth already, they're going to be the ones who take a hit, and they can afford to.
Thank you. We are well over time, but all of you really contributed a lot of really excellent stuff. Ibra asked how to get the recording, and it is on Facebook. We will have the file. This one is recording, and we will have the file available for the candidates and press if they need. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. We're going to close this out now. Thank you very much. We've had a great list of excellent candidates. Want to mention gp.org/live for those who would like to watch the convention tomorrow. And we'll have another press conference right after the convention with the nominee and vice presidential nominees. And so we hope people enjoy the rest of the day's workshops and convention, and best wishes to all of you in your campaigns. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for hosting us.